Hello, this is Mr. Jared, and in this activity we are going to be experimenting with the Pathfinder and Shape Builder tools, and you're going to be learning how to modify overlapping shapes. So I'm going to start out by going into Illustrator, and I have my activity already open, and this one specifically just deals with the Pathfinder tool. So first you need to actually bring the Pathfinder tool up, because that is not something that we actually have as a preset. So we want to go up to Window, down, and you will find Pathfinder. You can also see there it has Shift Control F9 for this version of Illustrator. But you want to select that, and it brings up this little tab. We don't really use these other things that often. The Align and Pathfinder we do, but Transform not as much. So what I'd like to do is I actually drag this Pathfinder over here, and I just drop it on there right next to my layers. If you want to drag the Align over there as well, you can. But we're dealing with the Pathfinder. And then I'm going to close out of this little tab. Okay, so basically what I have set up here is I have a whole bunch of little individual activities. You'll see like there's a duplicate. So basically it's the before and this is the after. So this is what we are going to edit, the bottom row, so that you can kind of see the difference between the two. I also have it set up just like the actual tool panel is over here. You have your shape modes, it says shape modes. There's 4 of them, and that's all 4. And then you have your pathfinders, and that's the rest of them. Now, why do they have it set up like this? I don't necessarily know. Some of the ways that it is set up, I would kind of agree and disagree with, and you'll see. And what the difference between the shape modes and pathfinders, it's a little bit hard to explain. But these tools are very, very easy to understand once you actually start to use them. So this is a very simple activity. First, we're just going to unite. So I'm going to select these two. You could also just hold in Shift and individually click on them if you'd like. But with them both selected, I'm going to move over here to the shape modes, and I'm just going to hit Unite. And what Unite does is it unites them together. It combines them together. But notice it took on the blue color. Okay, the blue shape was in front, so it took on the foreground color, and now that is all one shape. So this is called minus front. So if I select those two, this is going to subtract the one that's in front, which is going to be the blue, so minus front. So you notice it cut away that shape. Okay, now I'm just left with that orange piece. This is intersect, so wherever they overlap. So if you see right here, there's a little overlapping part, kind of looks like a football. That's what's going to be left. And it takes on the foreground color. The next one is exclude. So with those selected, if you look at the picture, it's kind of the opposite of the invert, or opposite of the intersect. So it's just the outside. So that's going to be the remainder out here. It's not going to have the football shape anymore. Okay, and once again, it takes on the foreground color. The other thing that this does is it kind of groups them together. So you can see it says ungroup here. If I were to ungroup this, it's actually 2 separate pieces. Next row here says divide, and I have little notes. You need to ungroup. Okay, so if I select these two, in the bottom row I hit divide, what it does is, it doesn't look like it does anything. Okay, but if you actually read the directions, it says you need to ungroup. So right click, and hit ungroup. Now you'll see it divided wherever they overlapped, and we actually have 3 different shapes. Trim. So if I select these, once again, we're going to need to ungroup this. So if I hit trim, okay, doesn't look like it did too much, but if I right click and hit ungroup, you can see here it kind of cut away the blue from the orange wherever it overlapped, and now it's 2 separate shapes. But it does group it. Okay, if I select the next one, this is merge. So when I merge, it kind of combines them together. Now you might be saying, well, hey, it's not a group. It's not. They are kind of grouped together a little bit, but without it being a group. This is a little bit of a tricky one. What this does is it actually combines them all as one shape, but it is still separate colors. So you can see I can still move just that, but they actually move together when I use the normal selection arrow. So they're grouped but not grouped. It's a little bit tricky. You're kind of changing the makeup of this by using the Pathfinder merge tool. The crop. So let's select this and hit crop. The crop is it takes the foreground shape, so that would be this blue circle, and it kind of makes almost like a clipping mask. Okay, if you've never used a clipping mask or don't know what that is, think about the term mask. A mask covers over something, so it leaves the outline of the old objects, and I should have an S right there. But what it does is it uses that blue circle kind of as like a lens or a filter, and it kind of makes the blue circle disappear, but whatever was inside of the background shapes, you can now see in there. Outline. This one just changes it to outlines. Now, why wouldn't you just change it from a fill to a stroke? I don't know, especially because this also breaks it up. You have to ungroup it, and then this breaks it up into individual shapes. So you might find a use for that, maybe, maybe not. And then this is called minus back. Again, at the very beginning of this, I said, I'm not necessarily too sure why they did the layout here the way they did, because this is called minus front, and this is minus back. You know, doesn't this do just the opposite of this? Kind of like what these do? They do. So minus back, it's going to take that orange circle and subtract it away from the blue. So the Pathfinder tool, you might be saying, well, why am I ever going to use this? Well, you might find unique little circumstances where, you know, depending on how you draw, or if you want something cut away, you can use it to minus the front. You can use it to do the intersecting. You can use it to unite things or divide things or trim. We are going to use this throughout the semester and throughout this class, just here and there. Okay, the other tool that they have, that they created later on, is called the Shape Builder tool. Shape Builder tool is very similar to the Pathfinder, but there are plus and minuses for it. And the Shape Builder tool basically works on drawing ability. So here I have a couple examples. We'll just kind of zoom in. We'll practice with these. The first one is making a speech bubble. So when I say it's drawing ability, you can kind of see in these other pictures where I give you more of the answer. It's based on how you actually draw. This is how you would learn to draw, you know, in elementary school, or if you ever bought a drawing book and you're trying to draw with geometric shapes. So that's what we're doing here. So to make this speech bubble, I'm going to go over to where the rectangle tool is, hold down, and I want to select the ellipse tool. Okay, you could try to draw an ellipse from up here, or if you go to the middle of this and hold in Alt, and kind of draw out, Alt allows you to draw from the middle. So try to get it the best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to move it with the arrow tools afterwards or resize it, you can. And I'm going to change this to an outline just so you can see it. Okay. Now this curve right here is another ellipse. So we could either try to draw another ellipse, or you could just copy and paste. That's what I'm going to do. Select it, then Control C and Control V. And if you notice, and I'll zoom in a little bit more, if you notice, this is pretty much the same. It's a little bit off right there. You can resize this if you want, but again, this is just practice. Okay, now to get the other side of this, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll select it, Control C, Control V. Just kind of line that up. Again, it's not perfect, but it's okay. Okay. Now, with all of these here and lined up, I'm going to select all three of them, and I need to find the Shape Builder tool. This is not something that comes from the window. This is a tool, okay? It's not a panel. So over on the left side, we need to find this. So there is the Shaper tool. That is not it, okay? You need the Shape Builder tool. Shape Builder tool is a little bit further down. It looks like two circles with a line, and it is the Shape Builder tool, or Shift M. And what this does is, when you move your mouse over this, you can see it's got a little plus sign, and it's selecting these different areas right now. Okay? If I click and hold in my speech bubble and drag through, I'm basically telling it, hey, I want to combine all of these areas that I drug over. So when I let go, it combines them all. Now, to subtract these, I would hold in Alt, and you notice it changes a plus sign to a minus sign. So now I'll just drag through, and it subtracts. and that gave me one solid shape. So let's continue over here with the cloud, and this is a whole bunch of circles, and then there's a little bit of a trick down here that we're going to do. So I'm going to get the ellipse tool. I'm going to go to the middle of this circle, just hold in Alt, but I'm also going to hold in Shift so that it's a perfect circle. Okay, and this might not be perfectly lined up with all of these clouds, but that's okay. Okay, we'll come over here again, draw another one. And for sake of time, I'm going to do this a little bit faster. Okay. So that is the outside three. All right, so with those selected, I'll get my Shape Builder tool. I'm going to combine all of them. All right. And you might be saying, well, don't you need to do some more to get this subtracted? You could do some circles down here to get this cut off, or you could add a white stroke onto that. But then a white stroke would be elsewhere. You know, it would be like anywhere else you put this logo, you would have a white stroke around it. So maybe we do want to do this bottom portion. But we're going to see if we can use this bottom cloud and just kind of scale it up to get that perfect shape. So let's just kind of do this bottom cloud now. And I'm going to change my color just so it's not confusing. I'll do red, since I already have a blue outside. Do the same process you did before. Again, with my left hand, I'm holding in Shift and Alt every time I make one of these. Now to connect down here, I'm going to just make a normal rectangle. I'm going to make that rectangle start inside of this circle, go down until it kind of snaps to the bottom of that circle, and then down to this one. Okay. Now it does need to cover over this shape right here, so I do need to make my rectangle a little bit bigger and kind of cover over all of that. Now I'm going to select all the red. Make sure you don't have the blue selected. You can see that you don't have the blue selected by the bounding box size. So these white little dots are called the bounding box. If it's way out here, it's because you have the blue selected. Okay, if it's only in here, then it's just the red. So now we'll go to our Shape Builder tool. Once again, you can kind of just highlight through. Make sure you get all your shapes. Okay, selected it. And it's not perfect down here, but that's okay. We could have zoomed in and fixed this. This is just practice. All right, so now with that created, I'm going to select that with my black arrow, my normal selection tool, copy, and this time I'm going to do Shift Control V for paste in place. So it copied it, put it right back on top, and the reason I did that is so that the clouds are perfectly lined up. And now I'm going to hold in Alt and Shift, and Alt is going to resize this from the middle. Okay, and Shift is going to keep it proportionate. So I'm going to click and hold on this while holding in Shift and Alt. I'm going to kind of scroll this up a little bit to move this just slightly. Okay, and that somewhat looks like it. Now I'll select that and my outside clouds, get my Shape Builder tool. Here I can hold in Alt to subtract this. Okay, I can subtract that as well, and now my blue is just on the outside. Okay, now if this really bothers you down here, you could draw another little shape in there. But as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty good. If you want to fill these in, you can. So we could just say, hey, blue fill, and let's say no stroke. Okay. The next one I have is already kind of laid out for you. I have a whole bunch of overlapping circles just for sake of time. I do have the eye in there as well. The eye is already filled in white, so you don't really need to do anything with that. But you're going to want to select all of this. And I will tell you, you will probably mess up here or there for these next couple. So if that really bugs you, you might want to save it every time you do one of these. And if it messes up, you can either hit undo or you can close out and open it up again. Okay, so with them all selected, let's see if I can do this in my first try. I'm going to hold an Alt, and I'm just going to work around the outside first. So you notice there's this big circle, and he does have a fin. That fin is right here, okay? And the little tail fin is this thing. So that means all of this gets subtracted. So I'm going to hold in Alt. I'm just going to carefully subtract all that stuff. So that's the top portion. I know this splits his fins. Again, this is the bottom fin. That's his body right there. That's his bottom fin. So that means all of this right here and this gets subtracted. Okay, now I can hold in Shift and I can kind of just add all of these. Actually, you do not need to hold in Shift. I apologize. Holding in Shift, if you notice there, kind of gave me like a selection box. You just want to be able to drag through. You might have to wiggle around in here a little bit because there's some overlapping pieces that are hard to get. There you go. And if you want to change this color, you just flip it, and there's our fish. So this is showing you that you can create things with different geometric shapes. So a little Batman symbol here. This one doesn't always work out perfect, depending on how yours kind of morphs these very, very sharp points. So I just hold an Alt. I'm going to select the different spots here that I want to subtract. This one's not necessarily a huge combining one other than this part right here. If you want to change the color, you can. You don't need to. And the last one here is the Twitter logo. This one is rather difficult to do, but this is actually how the Twitter logo was made. So you can see they have a whole bunch of different geometric circles here. These are all perfect circles, and these actually come from the golden ratio. I did have a video there that was linked for you to actually watch so that you can see what the golden ratio is and why they use it. So this is difficult. I might mess up, and if I do, that is okay. I would just kind of hit undo and keep going. So I want to try to find these shapes a little bit. You have to kind of train your eye. So the bottom of this is here, kind of comes up, goes to, I believe, that point, curves back. I think I had too much coffee to do this here this morning, but I'll do the best I can. So I'm going to subtract a lot of this first. Zooming in. Now I think I'm going to add his head because that's easy to see. He does have a little beak right here, so there's 3 small ones and this one. All right, so now I can see the head a little bit easier, so I'll hold an Alt and subtract out the outside. And I need to find that top wing. So you see this top wing right here, kind of comes from where the beak is, swoops down around, so I'd imagine that's this one. And that comes up to right here. You can see by right there's a little tiny triangle, so that means this triangle gets subtracted. Just to make sure, it looks like there's 2 here, so it's the top one, so it is this one. Okay, so I just want to subtract those. And then you can see here's all this extra, so that's all extra. This is extra as well. And I accidentally did an extra one, so I'll hit Control Z just to go back. Try that one more time. And I did it again. There we go. I think that's good. So now I can just kind of combine all of these. And there is my Twitter logo. I can flip that. So there is my shape builder tool. Now you might be saying, okay, well, that's great. You just taught me the Pathfinder and shape builder. What's the purpose? Why would I use this? So I put a little ladder over here, and I made 3 copies of them, just so that you can see one's going to stay still, you know, and I grouped the entire thing, so the whole thing moves together. And then I have another one where they're individual, and another one where they're individual. So the before, and then, you know, the afters here. So if I were to try to use the shape builder tool, which you probably just got done doing this, and you're like, hey, you know, this is cool. This is a little bit more exciting than the Pathfinder. Well, there is a time and a place for both of them. So if I were to select this, and I tried to do this with the shape builder tool, watch how annoying this would be. If I want this all as one, I'd have to come all the way down through. Okay, come all the way down through. And you see I'm missing a whole bunch as I'm doing this. So, and if you mess up like that, it kind of connects all of them. You'd have to be very careful to do this to get these all correct. This is rather annoying to do. This is where sometimes these little Pathfinder options are much faster. So for instance, if I select this and I just hit Unite, it's all one. Instantly, it's all one. So there is a time and a place for both of these, and I think the more you experiment, the better that you're going to get. But hopefully you learned some things about the shape builder and Pathfinder tools.